Listen closely, because what I'm about to share is not a simple statement, not an empty expression, not a gentle whisper meant to soothe you briefly and then disappear. Listen closely, because what I am preparing to speak is not a casual declaration, not an idle phrase, not a faint murmur intended to steady you for a moment and then fade away. This is a proclamation that shakes the ground beneath your spirit. This is a message that carries the weight of heaven. This is the kind of truth that reaches into the deepest part of your soul and calls your spirit to rise when everything around you says, stay down. If there is breath in your body and even the smallest spark left in your faith, then you need to hear this. God is saying, I am still going to do it for you. Not maybe, not someday, not if the situation improves. God is saying, I have not changed my mind. I have not withdrawn my promise. I have not forgotten what I spoke over your life. I am still going to do it for you. Some of you have been carrying a silent question inside your heart. You haven't said it out loud, but it echoes through your thoughts like thunder. You've asked God, did I misunderstand you? Did I hope for the wrong thing? Did I misread the signs? Did I mistake my own desire for your voice? You've been wrestling with that fear that perhaps the door has closed, the season is past, and what you believe for will never come to pass. But God is stepping into that fear right now. God is stepping into that doubt right now. God is stepping into that heaviness right now, and He is speaking with the authority that created the heavens and the earth. I'm still going to do it. There is nothing casual about the promises of God. When God speaks, reality must shift. When God declares, circumstances must bow. When God commands, creation aligns with His will. And when God decides to do something in your life, there is no force, no person, no obstacle, no power, no delay, and no darkness that can overturn His decree. You may feel delayed, but God is never delayed. You may feel forgotten, but God cannot forget. You may feel weak, but God is not waiting for your strength. God is working from His own strength. Some of you feel like the promise God gave you is on life support. You feel like the dream is barely breathing. You feel like the hope is fading. You feel like the situation has stretched on for too long. But hear me, just because you are tired does not mean God is finished. Just because you see nothing happening does not mean God is inactive. The silence of God is not the absence of God. The stillness around you is not proof that God has stepped away. Sometimes the quiet season is the sacred season where God is preparing things so powerful, so measured, so precise, that they must be done away from your eyes until the moment He reveals them. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are not abandoned. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not disqualified. God is saying, I am still going to do it for you, because God does not change His mind based on the storms you walk through. God does not reconsider His plan because your emotions waver. God does not withdraw His promise because seasons have shifted. God does not withdraw His promise because moments have faded. God does not recalculate your destiny based on the mistakes you've made. When God decides to do something, it is settled in the realm where doubt has no authority. But I want you to sense the weight of this truth. When God says, I am still going to do it, He's not saying it to comfort you. He's saying it to prepare you. There is a difference. Comfort soothes you. Preparation strengthens you. Comfort helps you sleep. Preparation wakes you up. Comfort makes you feel safe. Preparation makes you ready. God is not in the business of giving shallow comfort. God gives strength that carries you through storms. God gives power that stabilizes your soul. God gives vision that keeps you anchored when life tries to tear you apart. Some of you are asking, but why did it take so long? You've cried about it, you've prayed about it, you've begged for it, you've fought for it, and yet the promise feels no closer today than it did years ago. Hear this and let it settle in you. When God is preparing something big for you, the wait is not punishment. The wait is protection. God holds back certain blessings because if they came too early, they would break you instead of bless you. If they came too soon, you would mishandle them. If they arrived before you were ready, the very thing God designed to lift you would overwhelm you. God is not just preparing the blessing. God is preparing you. You think you're waiting on God, but in many ways, God has been waiting on you, waiting for your character to catch up to your calling, waiting for your strength to match the size of the blessing, waiting for your heart to be purified from the voices, influences, and distractions that would sabotage what He is about to release into your life, waiting for the weights to fall off your soul so you can carry what He is about to place into your hands. And hear this clearly. God doesn't build small. When God works, He works in ways that reveal His power. When God moves, He moves in ways that show His greatness. So when God says, I am still going to do it for you, He is not talking about something ordinary or average. He is talking about something that will make you say, only God could have done this. Only God could have arranged this. Only God could have opened this door. Only God could have lifted me this high. You may feel like the promise has slipped too far away. You may feel like the damage is too deep. You may feel like the opportunity has passed. But God is not limited by time. God is not restrained by natural order. God is not confined to what has already happened. God can resurrect what died. God can rebuild what was destroyed. God can restore what was stolen. God can elevate you from the very place where you were pushed down. I want you to notice something powerful. God did not say, I might do it. God did not say, I will think about it. God did not say, if everything aligns perfectly, then I will do it. No, God is declaring, I am still going to do it. The word still means He calculated in everything that is unfolded. The word still means He considered in everything that has occurred. He took into account the detours. He took into account the disappointments. He took into account the heartbreak. He took into account the mistakes. He took into account the delays. And after weighing all of it, God still said, my plan stands. That means nothing you've been through removed you from God's plan. Nothing you've lost disqualified you from God's plan. Nothing anyone did behind your back canceled God's plan. Even the moments you fell the hardest were already factored into the promise. And God is saying, despite it all, I'm still going to do it. You don't have to convince God. You don't have to beg God. You don't have to plead with God. The promise is not activated by your desperation. It is activated by God's decision. And God has already decided. Some of you need to release the guilt that has been choking your faith. You think you messed up too badly. You think you lost your chance. You think your past mistakes have poisoned your future blessings. But hear me, God knew your weaknesses before you even recognized your strengths. God knew your flaws before you walked into your destiny. God knew your struggles long before you prayed your first prayer. And God didn't choose you because you were perfect. God chose you because His plan for your life is stronger than every imperfection in your life. God knew who you were, and God still spoke the promise. That means you're not disqualified. It means you're not too late. It means you're not too broken. It means you haven't fallen too far. God is saying, I am still going to do it, because nothing can separate you from what God has decreed over you. Some of you are about to witness a shift so sudden, so powerful, and so precise that you will look back and realize that the delay was not a denial. It was a setup for something far greater than you ever imagined. God has a timing that is above your timing. God has a strategy that is above your strategy. God has a way that is above your way. And when God is ready to move, things that have been stuck for years will suddenly break open. Doors that have been shut will suddenly swing wide. Paths that were blocked will suddenly clear. People who overlooked you will suddenly have no choice but to notice what God is doing in you. This is only the beginning. There comes a moment in every person's life when God's promise feels almost unreachable. Not because the promise has lost its power, but because the journey toward it has tested every part of you. There are days when you stand strong, and there are days when you feel like your spirit is barely holding together. Yet, even in those moments, God watches over you with a precision you cannot comprehend. God does not only see your actions, God sees your endurance. God sees the quiet battles you fight when no one else is around. God sees the tears you wipe away. God sees the nights you lie awake questioning if you can keep going. And God is saying, I am still going to do it for you. Not because you never struggled, but because you kept standing even when everything inside you wanted to fall. Many people around you have misread your fight. Many people around you have misunderstood your struggle. They see where you are, but they have no idea what it took for you to survive this long. They see your calm face, but they don't see the storms you have walked through. They see your patience, but they don't see the pressure that has crushed your heart again and again. They see your strength, but they don't see how many times you've collapsed before God in private, asking for the power just to make it through one more day. But that is where the mystery of God's promise becomes so powerful. God never builds your destiny on the applause of others. God builds it on the perseverance that only He can see. God sees the truth of your heart, and because of that, the promise over your life remains untouched. You may not feel it, but right now God is rearranging things in ways you cannot imagine. God is setting things in motion that you have not even prayed for yet. God is preparing connections, opportunities, alignments, and breakthroughs that will make sense only when they appear. You think you are behind, but God is actually ahead of you. You think you're waiting, but God is building. You think nothing is happening, but God is preparing a moment where everything will shift at once. And when that moment comes, it will not be fragile or uncertain. God does not deliver halfway blessings. When God fulfills a promise, it stands with a strength that cannot be shaken. There are times when God allows delays so He can remove the people who cannot go into your future. You may not understand why certain relationships fell apart. You may not understand why people you trusted suddenly distanced themselves. You may not understand why some situations collapsed even when you prayed for them to hold together. But God saw what you could not see. God heard conversations you never heard. God witnessed motives you did not recognize. And God separated you from what would have harmed your destiny. Some of the people you lost were necessary losses. Some of the doors that closed were necessary closures. Some of the disappointments were necessary redirections, because God will not allow anything to contaminate what He has destined for you. Hear this clearly. If God removed it, it was never supposed to carry you forward. If God closed it, it was never designed to bless you. If God ended it, it was not aligned with His plan. You may not have understood the loss at the time, but someday you will look back and say, if that had stayed in my life, it would have destroyed me. God protects His promise with the same intensity that He fulfills it. And if God said He is still going to do it for you, then nothing that left your life had the power to stop what God decreed. Some of you have been asking, why does the promise feel so far away? But sometimes God increases the distance so He can increase your dependence. When the blessing is close, you rely on your strength. When the blessing is far, you rely on God's. When the answer is near, you feel in control. When the answer is distant, you fall into the hands of the one who fully governs all things. When the answer is distant, you fall into the hands of the one who truly controls all things. God is not trying to frustrate you. God is training you. God is shaping your perseverance. God is teaching you how to walk with Him at a deeper level than ever before. Every season of waiting refines something inside you that comfort never will. Waiting humbles your heart. Waiting sharpens your discernment. Waiting pushes you to silence voices that drain your faith. Waiting strips away distractions. Waiting breaks your dependence on things and people that cannot sustain your spirit. Waiting strengthens your capacity to hear God without needing constant reassurance. And when God finally moves, you don't enter the blessing as the same person who first prayed for it. You enter it with a spirit that has been purified, matured, and strengthened by the very journey that once frustrated you. Some of you are being strengthened right now. Even if you do not realize it, you are being shaped into someone who can handle what God is about to place in your life. You are being prepared to carry something that will not only bless you, but impact the people around you. God is raising you with purpose. God is shaping you with intention. Nothing about your journey has been wasted. Not the pain, not the tears, not the battles, not the confusion. Every moment has been part of the preparation for what God is about to release. You may look at yourself and see weakness, but God sees someone who refuses to quit. You may look at your past and see mistakes, but God sees lessons. You may look at your present and see setbacks, but God sees construction. God does not define you by what went wrong. God defines you by what He has planned, and the plan has not changed. The promise has not shifted. The destiny has not been canceled. God is still going to do it for you. You might think your situation is too far gone. You might think the damage cannot be repaired. You might think the opportunity is lost. You might think the time is past, but God specializes in turning impossibilities into testimonies. God does not need the situation to be perfect. God does not need the conditions to be favorable. God does not need everyone to support you. God only needs one thing to fulfill His promise, His decision, and He already made it. You may be surrounded by circumstances that try to convince you otherwise. Your bank account may say it's impossible. Your family situation may say it's impossible. Your health may say it's impossible. The people around you may say it's impossible. But God does not speak according to what is visible. God speaks according to what is destined. The impossible is simply the stage where God reveals His greatness. There are blessings God gives quickly, and there are blessings God gives slowly, but then there are blessings God gives suddenly. And some of you are standing on the edge of a suddenly. You don't see it yet, but you can feel something shifting. You can feel a quiet stirring in your spirit. You can feel that the heaviness that followed you for so long is starting to weaken. You can feel clarity forming where confusion once controlled you. That is not your imagination. That is God preparing the atmosphere surrounding your life. That is God preparing the atmosphere around your life. That is God announcing to your spirit that what He promised is approaching its moment. God does not rush anything, but God also never hesitates. When the moment is right, God moves without delay. And when God moves, the effect is immediate. When God commands a door to open, it opens with authority. When God sends a blessing, it arrives with force. When God decides a season is over, nothing can prolong it. And when God says, I am still going to do it for you, He is declaring that time, people, circumstances, and obstacles must all submit to His will. This is only a small part of what God is stirring over your life. There comes a point in your journey where God's promise stops being something you simply hope for and becomes something your spirit refuses to release. A moment where your entire being begins to say, I don't know how. I don't know when, but I know God will do it. That moment doesn't come from comfort. It comes from pressure. It comes from walking through valleys that seemed endless. It comes from confronting situations that tried to suffocate your courage. It comes from carrying weights you never asked for. And yet, even under all that strain, something in you refuse to die. That something is faith shaped by the hands of God. Faith is not born on mountaintops. Faith grows when God lets you walk through seasons that don't make sense. Faith expands when you fight battles that seem too big for you. Faith matures when God stays silent long enough for you to learn the sound of His presence without hearing a word. Faith becomes unshakable when every circumstance shouts, "Give up!" But you stand still because you trust the one who holds all power. And right now, that faith you've been building, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unknowingly, is rising to meet the promise God declared over you. This is why God keeps saying, "I'm still going to do it for you." God is not merely encouraging you, God is aligning you. God is bringing everything inside you into agreement with what He already established before the challenge began. God is stabilizing your spirit. So when the blessing arrives, you will not crumble under the weight of it. You have no idea how much God has already protected you from. You don't know how many battles God fought around you while you slept. You don't know how many traps were dismantled before they reached your path. You don't know how many arrows lost their target because God intervened before they struck. You don't know how many decisions were altered because God stepped in to ensure nothing interfered with what He planned for you. All you saw were disappointments, delays, and detours. But if your eyes could open to what God shielded you from, you would fall to your knees in awe of how carefully God has carried you. Some of the resistance you faced was not a sign of God's absence. It was a sign of your calling. People who carry great purpose attract great pressure. People who carry divine assignments walk through valleys many will never comprehend. People who carry divine assignments walk through valleys most will never understand. People chosen by God often encounter storms that seem unfair. Yet those storms do not come to destroy you, they come to reveal you. They expose your strength. They refine your trust. They uproot the fears that once controlled you. They prove to you and to everything watching that you cannot be broken because God Himself sustained you. Let me tell you something with complete authority. If the struggle was enough to stop God's promise, it would have stopped you already. But here you are, still standing, still hoping, still believing, still reaching. You are not here by accident. You are here because God has preserved you. And God does not preserve something He does not plan to use. God is shaping you into a vessel that can carry what He promised. That shaping is not gentle. It is not always comfortable, but it is purposeful. You have been stretched, pressed, refined, and tested, not because you are weak, but because what God is preparing to give you requires a spirit that has been strengthened in the fire. There are blessings so significant that only endurance can prepare you for them. There are doors so large that only perseverance can lift the key. There are callings so heavy that only refined faith can carry them. This is why the promise took time. God wasn't withholding anything from you. God was enlarging your capacity to receive. God was increasing your ability to sustain. When God blesses you, He does not want it to be temporary. God wants it to last. God wants it to expand. God wants it to overflow into every part of your life. And for that to happen, you needed to grow into the person capable of handling such abundance. But now something remarkable is happening. You are entering a season where what once resisted, you will begin to bend in your favor. The same doors that would not open before will begin to unlock. The same people who overlooked you will begin to take notice. The same opportunities that once slipped out of reach will return. The same situation that caused you pain will shift into purpose. This isn't optimism. This is God positioning everything according to His timing. When God says, I am still going to do it for you, He is not asking for your permission. He is revealing His intention. This is not a negotiation. This is not a suggestion. This is a declaration stamped by divine authority. There is no circumstance powerful enough to overrule what God has decreed. There is no delay long enough to weaken the promise. There is no darkness thick enough to conceal what God is about to unfold. When God decides your moment has come, everything must align with His command. There is a reason your spirit feels restless, not in anxiety, restless in expectation, restless in anticipation, restless in a way that suggests something is shifting in the unseen. You can sense it even though you cannot explain it. Your heart feels stirred, your mind feels awakened, your faith feels heavier, not from burden but from readiness. That is not random. That is God signaling that the promise is approaching its fullness. And don't underestimate the significance of what you have endured. Pain teaches you things. Comfort never could. Comfort never will. Struggle shapes you in ways ease never could. You learn to stand without applause. You learn to trust without validation. You learn to pray without immediate results. You learn to walk forward even when your heart felt faint. You learn to keep your faith alive in seasons where everything around you felt lifeless. Those lessons were not wasted. They were sculpting the foundation of someone God can trust with something extraordinary. God does not place great destiny in unprepared hands. And you have been prepared not by chance, not by accident, but by design. And now God is bringing clarity to what once confused you. God is bringing order to what once felt scattered. God is bringing strength to areas where you felt weak. God is bringing purpose to the pain that once seemed senseless. You are stepping into a phase of your journey where the unseen work of God will become visible. You thought God was silent, but God was building. You thought nothing was changing, but God was arranging. You thought you were stuck, but God was stabilizing your foundation. And now that voice that whispers into your spirit, quiet but undeniable, is saying, hold on, stay steady. I am still going to do it for you, and God will. There is a moment when a person must decide who they are going to be from this day forward. Not defined by fear, not shaped by disappointment, not controlled by the voices of doubt that have followed them for years, but shaped by the truth that God has spoken over their life. You stand in that moment right now. Everything you have walked through has brought you here. Every storm that tried to break you has only confirmed that you were built to rise. Every setback that tried to silence you has only proven that God's hand has been holding you through all of it. And because God has carried you, you can face what comes next with courage. You can stand in the power of knowing that your life is not random, your path is not meaningless, your journey is not wasted. God is leading you, God is shaping you, God is preparing you for something greater than anything you have known. So lift your head, straighten your shoulders, let your heart open again. Do not let the wounds of yesterday define the strength of tomorrow. Do not let the voices that tried to diminish you drown out the voice of God calling you forward. Do not let closed doors convince you that God has forgotten you. God has not abandoned you. God has not overlooked you. God has not changed His mind about your life. What God has spoken still stands. What God has planned will still unfold. What God has promised will still reach you. Take hold of that truth and let it reshape the way you walk. From this day on, choose to live with a confidence rooted not in what you see, but in what God has declared. Choose to trust even when you cannot trace the path. Choose to believe even when nothing around you seems to match the promise. Choose to lift your spirit every morning with the certainty that God is moving, God is working, and God is guiding every detail of your life. Let your steps reveal the strength that comes from knowing you are never alone. Let your steps reflect the strength that comes from knowing you are not alone. Let your decisions carry the weight of someone who understands that their life has divine meaning. Let your heart stay open to the direction God gives, even when that direction pulls you away from what is familiar. And now, as you stand before the unknown, dare to release the fear that has kept you small. Dare to step out of the patterns that have held you back. Dare to walk with a renewed purpose, a deeper hunger, and a stronger faith. God is calling you to rise above what once defeated you. God is calling you to break free from what once confined you. God is calling you to move forward with a spirit that refuses to surrender. This is your time to trust God with everything you are and everything you hope to become. Let your soul remember this truth with every breath. God has not brought you this far to leave you empty-handed. God has not allowed you to endure the storms only to abandon you in the calm. God has not let you survive the valley only to let you fall on the mountain. God is saying, I am still going to do it for you. Let that promise ignite your spirit. Let it fuel your courage. Let it deepen your faith. Let it push you to examine your life and realign your heart with the path God has prepared. Walk forward with reverence. Walk forward with conviction. Walk forward with a renewed dedication to seek God in everything you do. Let your thoughts be anchored in faith, your actions grounded in purpose, and your heart fixed firmly on the one who has never failed you. Stand tall in the assurance that God is with you. God is guiding you, and God is preparing to fulfill what He declared over your life long before you even asked for it. And as you breathe in this moment, let one truth settle deeply, quietly, powerfully into your soul. When God says He will do it, nothing in this world can stop what is